Hello, it's 11. Welcome to Tina's seminar. Tina is almost finishing her PhD. You said you have been here for 3 years, to assume that. Yeah, she has done a master's before here at UWA, and most importantly, she has worked a lot on this topic on a few different places, and she has a lot of experience. So you said you need 16 minutes, but I will give you 17.
All right, thank you. Thank you, German. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. So I want to confirm that I'm not almost finished my just finished my second year. So I will still have my time until February 2027. So again, thanks for coming. I also have my lovely supervisor here, Natasha, and other supervisors are Carmen, Julian, and Ty. So today I would like to present one part of my PhD research. It's about the status of transboundary cooperations in the Arafura and Timor Seas, especially regarding stakeholders, drivers, and priorities. So first, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owner of the country and recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and communities. I also would like to pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So first, because I never have opportunity to present in the other department, I would like to explain a little bit about my whole research, PhD research. So my PhD research aims to investigate enabling conditions for developing transboundary marine spatial planning. And I did the first step on the left part here. I did a systematic literature review to identify the good practice elements of transboundary marine spatial planning. And one key findings from this is that transboundary marine spatial planning, it's not only about joint planning, but it's more about continuous process of transboundary cooperation to address transboundary issues. So this finding led me to the second step of my PhD research, which I am presenting now. So what is transboundary cooperation? So the global environmental changes like climate change, biodiversity loss, habitat degradation, pollution has called for a multifaceted approach, and this also can include transboundary cooperation. So transboundary cooperation basically is cooperation between neighboring countries to address transboundary issues. In marine areas, it is more urgent because the interconnectivity of marine ecosystems, species, threats, impacts, also human activities across the borders. It can focus on issues like climate change, fisheries management, biodiversity conservation, and marine pollution, also marine spatial planning. So this one, just one example of transboundary marine protected area. It is covers waters of Malaysia and Philippines. And in transboundary cooperation in marine areas involve multi-sectoral stakeholders in different governance levels, including from regional, national, and subnational. So in my study, I used a case study of the Arafura and Timor Seas. You can see here the map. It includes waters of Australia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and Timor-Leste. It is a semi-enclosed sea. So because it is a semi-enclosed sea, under UNCLOS regulation, the neighboring countries need to cooperate to protect and to manage the marine resources. But until now, there is no information or study regarding transboundary cooperation in this region. So that's why my study aims to understand and to examine the status of transboundary cooperation in this region, including who are the stakeholders, what are their roles, how they are involved, what are the drivers of the cooperation, and what are their priorities of issues and activities. So my study is a qualitative research. I did semi-structured Since November last year until April this year, I asked people about their motivation for cooperation, their focus, their outcome, and also future initiative. In total, I did interviews with 20 people from government, universities, university researchers, international NGOs, project body, and regional partnerships. So to complement these interviews, I also did a document analysis, basically from project websites and documents regarding the issues covered by the cooperation. So all of the information I got from interviews and also from document analysis were then coded and analyzed using deductive and inductive thematic analysis. So I use predetermined coding aligned to my interview themes, but at the same time, I look for new emerging themes from the interview information. So I got these themes. Maybe only some of you familiar with this kind of themes. I know Amber do this as well. So I got 15 themes with several sub-themes, and all of this information then synthesized to answer my research questions. So the first finding: who are the stakeholders? What are their roles and how they are involved? So I can identify that stakeholders in the Arafura and Timor Seas involved in cooperation, they have different roles. So I can identify at least 13 government agencies, mostly at the national level. They are responsible for policy making and implementation of the cooperation at the national and also subnational level. At least 15 international organizations has significant roles in the cooperation, particularly to provide funding and also to technical assistance, facilitating and coordinating project activities. And at least 11 universities in 4 countries in which their researchers involved to provide baseline data informing the target and priorities, also to transfer knowledge to other stakeholders. And interestingly, in Papua New Guinea, university researchers has very strong roles. They can influence the decision of government even. So based on my interviews, I can say that stakeholders involved are at the managerial and executive level mostly, so they can have enough power to be involved in decision-making process. But some interviewees also says that there is a need to engage local stakeholders, like provincial government, for example, or local NGOs, including also the young generation. So it is quite interesting quote from one of my interviewees. So these stakeholders involved in 14 transboundary cooperations. So I can identify there are in total 14 cooperations in the region. All of them are voluntary in nature, so there is no treaty or binding agreement. Mostly, like 9 cooperations are project-based. It is initiated and managed by third party. And only 3 cooperations are government-to-government programs, all of them led by Australian government agencies focusing on ARE-UWA fishing. And only 2 cooperations are under permanent governance mechanism. One is at-sea partnership, and another one is called, it's quite long, Regional Plan of Action to Combat Illegal, Unreported, and Unregulated Fishing, or RPOA ARE-UWA. This partnership have permanent, like intergovernmental mechanism, and they have specific sub-regional group for the Arafura and Timor Seas. So the second finding is the drivers. What are the factors motivating stakeholders mainly to cooperate? So I can identify that 85% of interviewees say that they need to improve the maritime security. This can be related to ARE-UWA fishing, illicit activities like human trafficking, drug smuggling, money laundering, and also potential conflict over resources. You can see here that in ARE-UWA fishing aspect, for example, all government besides Indonesia has concern on it, while for the illicit activities, only Australia concerned for it. While for the potential conflict over resources, it is particularly related to the disputed border between Indonesia and Timor-Leste. While academia and international organizations all concerned about these aspects. The second driver is that they have the goal of sustainable ocean management. They can also relate to environmental aspect, social aspect, and economic aspect. Environmental aspect like marine conservation, species protection, marine pollution, while social aspect it's like more about the livelihood of coastal communities in the countries, while the economic aspect is more about how to improve marine-based economic activities in the region like fisheries or tourism. So all countries, all government have concerns on environment, while in the social aspect, Australia doesn't have any concerns, while the economic aspect only expressed by Papua New Guinea and Timor-Leste. Like, for example, Timor-Leste expressed explicitly that they want use this cooperation to also help them to improve their scale of fisheries, because now they are still very small-scale fisheries. And the next driver is all stakeholders want to build understanding and relationship between countries and between people. Only Australia say that it is important to improve people-to-people connections, while other countries only say about countries' relationship, but Indonesia didn't say anything about this. And academia also concerned about this aspect. So they say that relationship between countries in this cooperation can be also part of effective communication strategy between countries. And the last driver I found is 35 of interviewees says they want to help to achieve international mandates. So that's why they want to do the cooperation. For example, there is binding agreements, mostly they say about global biodiversity framework that ask countries to conserve 30% of marine areas. So not all of countries, sorry. So Australia and Indonesia, only the two countries have high concerns about this international agreement, binding and non-binding. Non-binding is like Australia and Indonesia involved in a partnership called high-level panel of sustainable ocean economy, but it's not non-binding. But while international organization express these drivers both in binding or non-binding agreement. So overall, all of these drivers, I think they reflect domestic commitment and interest of 4 countries, but at the same time, these drivers also can be influenced by socio-economic conditions of country. And how about the priorities? You can see here on the chart, it is the percentage of interviewees on priority issues covered in the cooperation. The top 4 issues are fisheries management, ARE-UWA fishing, marine protected areas, and species protection. So a lot of interviewees express these priority issues, and these issues also align with the drivers I explained before, especially regarding sustainability and maritime security. And other issues also covered as priority issues, you can see here, but few interviewees express that there is a need to also include local wisdom, blue carbon, and integrated coastal management in the cooperation, while now the existing cooperation have not covered these issues. But this is only the perspective of the interviewees. In terms of priority activities. So 85% of interviewees says that cooperation in the region happen in form of capacity building activities. It can include trainings, workshop, exchange, scholarship programs, awareness raising program that basically improve the ability of individuals and organizations in the 4 countries to work together to address transboundary issues. Mostly these capacity building activities delivered from Australia's side, but also sometimes from Indonesia's side to other countries, which are Papua New Guinea and Timor-Leste. It includes government, resource users, local NGOs, and also researchers. The topics, again, similar with the priority issues, it's mostly on the marine protected area and ARE-UWA fishing. And the interviewee says, interestingly, that they found these capacity building activities is very useful to promote regional equity by reducing disparities of capacities between countries. The second priority activity is research. It can happen within only one country in the border area. So they want to provide local contacts for the cooperation. But at the same time, there is also transboundary research involving neighboring countries for input for the cooperation and national policy, also to provide more data in the borders. Again, the topics is quite similar with this capacity building. It's more about MPAs and fisheries management, although other issues also covered, like local wisdom, ghost gear, ecosystem assessment, and threatened species. Some interviewees says that primary data in these transboundary areas is very important. So like fieldwork activities, collecting data directly from the field is very important because until now, the information in the border areas is still very limited. And some interviewees said this capacity building and research considered as soft diplomacy between countries. So to conclude, I would say that my study demonstrates different knowledge, skills, and authority from stakeholder groups that can enable transboundary cooperation. It also shows that diverse perspective ensure multiple issues addressed in the cooperation, but there is a need for more sustainable and inclusive governance frameworks that can optimize the roles of different stakeholders, and then hopefully it can lead to the improve of the effectiveness of the cooperation. I think that's all. Thank you. No?
That's something, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Nina. That was a great presentation, and you show a lot of knowledge, even though you have a long way to go in your PhD. There has been a lot of people online, 16 people, and you got the same number of people at the end than at the beginning, which usually doesn't happen. Also, a lot of people here, some people that don't show up that often, and even your partner is here, which is great. All right, following the tradition, are there any questions from PhD students first?
Maybe not familiar topic for
Okay.
students.
From the people online, if you want to make a questions, please drop it in the chat or just raise your hand and I will tell you when to speak. Otherwise, someone else.
I have a question. What's your, now that you've done these interviews, like what's your next step? With your
Actually,
research?
I have my life site here.
Oh.
So already prepared. I know you're gonna ask that. So from the findings of my study until now, next steps is I will elaborate more about how this transboundary cooperation can transition into more comprehensive mechanism of transboundary marine spatial planning. But I only will take only one lens of capacity building under one partnership.
Yeah.
So hopefully in more 1 year, the next 1 year, I will focus on that.
Yep, great.
Okay. raise his hand a little bit. So Dave, then Michael.
So in these sort of agreements, trust is really important.
Yeah, correct.
And part of trust is, well, trust can be enhanced by monitoring people's compliance with the agreement. Are there monitoring systems? How does that aspect of these agreements work? And that could be true whether it's like a compulsory one or a voluntary one, couldn't it?
Yeah. So because this is the cooperation are all based on voluntary, so there is no like binding agreement. It's just based on, again, mutual trust between countries. But so they have what's called strategic action program at the regional level and also at the national level. So this is how they monitor how the cooperations can be implemented both in the regional and national level. So every year, usually the partnership will have a meeting together. They will discuss about how they will plan their strategic program for the next year at the regional and national level. And it's not, again, it's not binding. So country doesn't have any compulsory to align with that. But again, it's because voluntary action is because they have common goals. They have these shared issues together. So in order to achieve those goals, they are committed voluntarily to implement the cooperation actions, both in the regional, national, or even in subnational levels.
I was thinking
so mostly national government will do the monitoring at the subnational and national level. So they have to report to the regional meeting later, something like that.
Okay. I was thinking of, like, even within a country, like, you know, I've looked closely at quite a few Australian programs, and many of them don't operate very well. Like, even within a sort of a high wealth, strong governance country in Australia, when you look at the details, they're often actually failing.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of evaluation of the performance? So that sounds like quite a soft version of monitoring. Is there any actual evaluation of the performance and the outcomes?
Usually, because mostly the corporations are project-based, so usually the monitoring and evaluation efforts will be delivered based under the project framework. So as I explained before, once the project finish, I think it will be gone, maybe. So until now, among 14 cooperation, only 2 can transform from that project base to more permanent governance mechanism. And this effectiveness measure, I will also later study on my next step.
You stole my question. As in, does this evidence this cooperation actually is achieving on the ground, in the water, improvements in terms of the management that they actually want to achieve, or is it just government agencies talking to each other, doing stuff, and then actually on the ground it's makes no difference? Any sense from them as to whether this is working like that?
Yeah, so most cooperations, not only managed by government, but also mostly, because it's project-based, mostly managed by third party like international NGOs or UN bodies. But they work with government together. I will focus more on that aspect later on my next study, but I can give you one example. So there is a capacity building activities between Indonesia and Timor-Leste since 15 years ago. And one of the achievement you can call or effectiveness we can see is in the Timor-Leste sides. Because of that capacity building activities, they can improve their knowledge on particular issue like marine protected areas, and after many years, they can finally establish their first marine protected area, which is before not there yet, but through that cooperation, they can finally establish new marine protected area, the first one in the country. So I think that's one example of how we can measure effectiveness and achievement.
And it's a real protected area, not a paper protected area, not just lines of a map.
Hopefully real, hopefully real.
Got capacity to
Yeah.
actually deliver.
Yeah.
I think another aspect of the government, each government's management, whether that's effective or not, might be not just by, the performance, whether you are doing what you're, supposed to do, on the paper, on agreement. I don't know your starting point of doing the stakeholder analysis. What is the scope of the stakeholder analysis? Because from what I see, this is all looking at the institutional stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
I can understand because this is how the world runs. Government make a deal and then doing things, but we are trusting the government representing the ultimate stakeholders, right? You're as agent of the nature or as agent of your population. You're doing the best thing. But any consideration of the user group stakeholders, because you have this voluntary NGOs, whatever. What is the reflection within that scope? Who are represented? Do you have any?
So
what are the type of NGOs you have included in your stakeholder analysis?
Oh, okay. So in all of this cooperation, NGOs involved are international NGOs like Conservation International, Coral Triangle Center, and also other NGOs involved. But also some other international organizations like FAO, UNDP, or HAMC, if you ever heard. But there are these organizations have the representative in the country. For example, Conservation International, they have representation in Indonesia and in Timor-Leste and in Papua New Guinea, in Australia, something like that. So to do this cooperation, basically all of this representation in countries, they talk to each other. But also, yes, local stakeholders like communities, fisher groups, maybe, or local NGOs are not enough involved in the cooperations. I agree. So that's why later, through the capacity building lens, I will explore more about the involvement of all types of stakeholders, including at the local level.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. It's recorded.